So today is for the healers, the counselors, the therapists, the social workers, the people with a savior complex, the people that got the cape on that wants to heal and help and jump to the beck and call of everyone. This one, the people pleasers. This one's for you. Hello, my healing fam. Welcome to Healing Not Healed, where we will talk about all things mental health and holistic wellness in a very transparent and culturally competent space. Today, I just randomly had this moment of aha because I was processing a session I had with a client, as well as some of the talking points that I had reflected on myself that I saw myself in. And I think as a counselor, as a healer, you have to check your transference, your countertransference, things that you feel come up for yourself when you are doing counseling for others. And so this was one of those moments where I knew I had seen myself in this person. And so I had to be very mindful about the advice I gave. But this is a piece of advice that I feel like not only I needed, to realize and practice, that they also are a counselor, a healer themselves, that needed to hear that in practice, as well as I know other counselors and therapists need to hear it in practice. And I think you guys as listeners and clients and healers need to hear it in practice as well, is that the healer is not the one doing the healing, right? If you come into my office, you come into my Reiki session, I am not healing you. I am transmuting energy. I am helping support you come to a safe space of your own healing. I am empowering you. I am encouraging you. I am transferring energy with you, but I'm not doing the healing. You are taking that step and that power yourself. And the part that we don't feel empowered in that, and what we don't recognize in our relationships with others, and this is the advice and talking point that I had to come to for myself and to tell this person, is that you can't heal everyone. Like, you can't impose your healing onto people. You can't, and this is where we struggle in relationships. And people always say, well, how come therapists get it wrong, and how come counselors get it wrong? Like, y'all don't see the red flags? Y'all be like, you don't get it? Like, you get upset and you don't express yourself too? One, we're human, but two, the flawed thinking that we have sometimes as healers is that we over empathize with people, and we feel like with time, with grace, with empathy, with compassion, over time we can heal these people, and that's not our role. That's not our role. We can love on people, and we can, gracefully be in people's presence and support them and point out, things that impact you, and how you view how their values might impact other people or conflict with your values. But you can't want them to change into changing. Like, you can't will them into a place of healing. And that's a lot of what my therapy and what I've noticed with a lot of clients where they struggle is they're very empathic people. They're very caring people. A lot of them probably are in the healing, helping space, to be honest. And you see that savior complex of, maybe if I say it differently, maybe if I give it a little bit more time, or maybe if I listen a little bit differently, or show up a little bit differently, or do all these things. Right? In our personal lives, we feel like we can almost control or manipulate the energy if we just people please, if we just bend, if we just, and that's where we struggle with our boundaries. And that's why I say it is very important to check yourself with that transference, with that countertransference, and in assessing your boundaries, like, often. And so that's not to say that, oh, because I do this podcasting, I'm not very aware of my boundaries. Because I self-disclose, I'm very self-aware on where I'm at emotionally with these things when I self-disclose. That is where I feel like a lot of us as healers and helpers really struggle when starting this journey with helping and healing others. We have a lot of self-doubt about what we're capable of and what we're competent of. And so in some ways we're insecure and we have imposter syndrome, but in other ways we overcompensate and overpromise what we can do for people, when the reality is you have to meet people where they're at. And you have to recognize where some people just aren't your people to heal. Some people aren't in the space of healing and are maybe cautious or apprehensive in the first place and have a guard up that isn't yours to tear down. And that goes for the office space and in your personal relationships. And so it is very common for therapists and healers and people in the spiritual space to have relationship issues. Because again, I think there is this little bit of the savior complex of we don't want to damage relationships. We don't want to lose relationships. We want to keep connection. We want to keep community. And sometimes that's even at the expense of ourselves, where we're trying to problem solve. How do I keep this relationship stable? Or how do I get this person to be the person that I need them to be, when they're just not meant to be in our community? They're not meant to be in our space. And not every client that comes to your door is meant to be healed by you. And you have to put your ego and pride aside to be able to say that I don't have the capacity for you and your concerns. And so, or I don't have the competency, I don't have the awareness. And so instead of trying to, again, force your way into people's lives, to create this complex that you are the person doing the healing, that you have these magical powers to just transform someone's lives within a session, I'm not going to be delusional, or I'm not even going to overpromise that as a therapist or a Reiki healer. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to meet you where you're at, and I'm going to support you in your journey, and I'm going to help you come to some conclusions, and I'm support you with some skills. What naturally and what organically happens in that session is what happens, and how you heal, I'm there to support you in that. When you make some fucked up decisions, I'm going to tell you about that too, but I'm going to tell you that lovingly, right? And so I think that is how relationships with boundaries, with good boundaries, really look like, right? Is allowing people to come to a space of healing. And I think we lose that in some of our personal relationships, where again, we self-impose and we lose that boundary. That is why those relationships are a lot more tumultuous, because in a therapist, in a healing role, you have to remember your place and stay in it. As I mentioned before, me quitting my previous jobs and diving into private practice full time, one of the fears, because I've had plenty, right? And I've shared some of those fears. One of the fears that I didn't mention was that the fear of boredom, feeling like stagnant or feeling like too much routine or ritual with having a private practice, because, having the same set schedule, I thought that was going to become very mundane for me. And because I had done private practice for a while, right? But I had only did it part-time. And the reason I had done that is because that nice balance of, I worked in an environment where I'm talking about rape, I'm talking about murder, I'm talking about gun violence, I'm talking about losing family members, losing friends, I'm talking about very deep-seated trauma and personal and very emotionally draining issues on a daily basis. So to go to private practice and talk a little bit about more lighthearted family dynamics, stress, work, things like that, it gave me a nice balance. But I worried that because I had came from such an intense environment, that I was going to get bored with the clientele that was in the community. And my flawed thinking and my error in my thinking in that is, one, no matter the population, again, I felt more of a savior complex of, these are deeper issues that I can really get to the meat and potatoes of. And for some people, again, I kept meeting resistance where they didn't want to heal, and I was getting burnt out. I was getting frustrated. But I wanted to reach people, but again, it wasn't my place, right? Like, not for everyone in that population, it wasn't my place. And so that's how therapists and counselors get burnt out, is not recognizing where clients are at and taking a step back on, I can't force this person's healing journey. I have to support them where they're at, and I have to establish a boundary of, I will meet you when you are ready to come to this door and come with a better attitude. And so I had to come with a better attitude when it came to dealing with private practice and a different clientele of, I don't need to be the savior in everybody's life. I don't need to force people into treatment, into healing. These people want to be here, and I want to support them in that. And I don't have to be burnt out for that. So that was part of my decision making. Again, I had to grow as a therapist and as a clinician on knowing my role of wanting to support people in their own healing. So knowing that you, as a healer, are not doing the healing. You are supporting people in that journey. And that is how, again, you have establishing boundaries. That's how you're preventing burnout. That's how you're meeting your passion with interest and creativity and more energy for it. And again, I was generalizing. I was definitely generalizing and stereotyping the extremities. And again, I needed to get out of that complex, because I have seen a variety of different issues and stories and backgrounds that, again, brought more passion into what I was doing, to recognize and realize there is a community need. There is a community population in need that wants the help, that isn't receiving the help in the community, right? So again, like I take Medicaid clients. I know the struggle of trying to find a clinician, especially a clinician of color, that takes Medicaid insurance. And so I know the stress that puts on me as a clinician of dealing with the state, but at the same time, I'm dealing with a population that has genuine issues, that want the help, that I feel, again, purposeful, but I don't feel the need to impose or to force or to try to get them to understand, right? They come with their set of issues, and I can just show up and be present and meet them where they're at and meet them with their needs for what they request and what they desire. And that is why when you look on my website, when it comes to the means of the services that are offered, this is wellness your way. Because it might not be counseling, it might not be Reiki, it might not be sound healing, it might be all three, it might be two, it might be one, it might be none. I might not be for you. But I want you to know that there's options. And in the healing community, we have to realize that the client has and needs options. And so again, pride and ego aside, look at the client, meet them where they're at, be honest with yourself and what you can offer and what you have capacity for, and then treat or refer out. Again, the healer is not doing the healing. You are supporting them in that journey. And if you can't do that ethically and morally and with good boundaries and good knowledge of self, you're going to get burnt out. You're going to get exhausted. So I hope that was helpful. Again, for my healing community, that goes for your business life and your personal life. You are not here to save everybody. All right? That goes for family. That goes for friends. That goes for the boyfriend. That goes for the girlfriend. That goes for everybody. You are not here to save everybody. All right, Healing Fam. Thank you for being here. Again, make sure to like, share, subscribe. I will post every Thursday. Don't forget to tune in for Sound Healing Sundays, 8 p.m. live on YouTube. Thank you, Healing Fam.